Hi, everybody. This is Bob Gale, co-creator of Back to the Future, and you're listening to Brad Gilmore.
Doc! Okay, relax, Doc. It's me. It's Marty.
No, it can't be. Just sent you back to the future.
Yeah. Oh, I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back. I'm back from the future.
Great Scott.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Whoa, this is heavy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Back to the Future, the podcast, the only podcast looking back in time, the greatest film trilogy of all time, Back to the Future. I'm your friend in time, Brad Gilmore, and we are back with another edition of the show. What you're about to hear momentarily is a listener question that came in regarding something that he has always wondered about Back to the Future, especially Back to the Future Part 1, about the lightning strike, about seconds, minutes, and hours. And we're going to get into that. Before I go any further, I do want to read a couple reviews that we've gotten recently. This is from Barbasol Can, great name. Brad, your podcast is great. Also, my favorite background character from Back to the Future Part 1 is the guy whom is wearing a red tie, seemingly looking or waiting for someone, standing alone behind George McFly as he dances by himself at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, or the rhythmic ceremonial ritual. We appreciate that. Yeah, I like the red tie guy. Red tie guy. We gotta come up with a backstory for red tie guy. And this next one is actually from the person whose question was sent into my email. This is from Cav Manning. Says, a new find. Gave 5 stars. I just found this podcast, and it's like striking gold or lightning. Great to hear all the insights and things I never knew about this trilogy. A must for any fan. Just downloaded the audiobook of Brad's as well. Well, we appreciate that, Cav Manning. And guess what? This whole episode is pretty much about you, my brother. So let's get to my question and answer session on Back to the Future, the podcast, season 10. All right, let's get into it right now. So the couple things that I definitely want to touch on are I really want to focus on time travel today, because I remember on one of the Back to the Future box sets, I don't know if it was the 30th anniversary, 35th anniversary, somewhere in one of those, there was a scientist who was a physicist who kind of explained time travel and said that Back to the Future does time travel the best. I'm working on another project right now with somebody, and we had this debate, and he's a big Back to the Future fan, but also a big time travel and parallel universe guy. And he says that the time travel makes 0 sense. So I wanted to look at exactly how the time travel works. But before we get there, we do have a question that I wanted to go through with everybody that was sent in from one of our Back to the Future pinheads out there. And I'm going to pull that up now. Here it is. Kev, where is he? Trying to pull up him right now. Kev, boom. Where is he? So he has he sent me an email. Chris Cav sent me an email saying, hey, love your podcast. Cav Manning, excuse me. Send me a podcast or email saying, I love your podcast. And this is what it said. Just found out about your show and I'm loving it. You said to send in a voice question. So here it is. Keep up the good work. So I haven't heard this yet. So hopefully it's appropriate. And we're going to listen to what his question is.
Hey, Brad. I'm Cav Manning. I just discovered your podcast for Back to the Future, and I am absolutely thrilled with it because I am a big Back to the Future mark, so I'm going back into your archives, listening to everything, and really enjoying it. I saw your last episode about the question and answer stuff, and it answered a lot of my questions, such as how come they didn't use the gasoline in the stored DeLorean. That was a good one. I have a question that is kind of splitting hairs a bit, but I figure I'd ask it anyway. When they know the minute that the lightning is going to hit, don't they have to calculate in the seconds as well? So it could be the minute plus 30 seconds, but he is hitting the wire at exactly the minute mark, which is a problem. That has always been something I've wondered about. And also, couldn't they have just put the DeLorean up on semi-stilts in the back to where it is running at 88, and so when the lightning does hit and it's already wired to it, you kick the stilts out and then it hits the ground running, so you are on time when it does hit. Another interesting thing for you, I just moved up to a place called Columbia, California, which is down the road from Jamestown, and that might ring a bell for you because that is where Back to the Future Part 3 was filmed, and now being obsessed by that, I was trying to find the location, and I found where that was filmed, so I plan on jumping on the railroad tracks and walking to where it was all filmed. And I'm sure you know this fact about Part 3, that they were leaving the set for tourism over here, and like a Twilight Zone episode, the set was struck by lightning and burned to the ground, so it's not there anymore. I can't even believe that that actually happened. Anyway, love the show. Hope to get an answer. I'll continue listening. Thanks, man.
We appreciate that, Cab Manning. Yeah, he said several things there. So why don't we address them in order? We'll go to the first thing that he said was about the seconds of the DeLorean. Now, this is something that isn't unique to Chris. I've heard this before, and I've had this debate. I definitely understand, especially with something like lightning, making sure that you have everything down to the exact second. Now, they weren't given that information, and the clock tower, this is something I thought about a lot, actually. The clock tower does not have a second hand, right? This is an old school clock tower with a minute and hour hand, no second hand. So there's no way that the DeLorean was frozen at that time, or that the clock tower was frozen at that time, and the DeLorean would know exactly the second to hit the electrical wire in order to harness the power of the lightning and send it back to the future. I think that this is one of the things that if you spend too much time thinking about it, you're going to end up causing yourself to be a little crazy. Only because, you know, in any movie, there's sometimes you just got to give it to them. You know what I mean? You just got to give it to the movie and say, hey, that isn't 100% tight, but we can run with it. Now, as we see, though, in the movie, and this is something that I've thought about, because the way that now that's the first answer, and that's the one that I see commonly given. But when I think about this even further, I think about the flyer. Now, what does the flyer say? You know what? Let's pull up the Save the Clock Tower flyer, because I'm going to read it. I want to read it verbatim. And because there's particular wording in here that makes me think otherwise to how did they get around the seconds thing. So let's pull this up. Can somebody? There we go. All right. God, I hate Google Images, man. Google Images drives me nuts. Okay, look. Let's zoom in on this. So this is from Etsy. So it's a prop replica. So I'm going to assume this is a Save the Clock Tower flyer that I made. I did a clock lady costume, seen in the photos before, posted online. Okay, I'm going to assume this is accurate. So let's read on this Save the Clock Tower flyer here. Well, see, that's already wrong. No, I don't like that one. Where is it? Okay, let's go with this one. Okay, yeah. Let's go back. Okay, sorry that y'all are having to stick with me on this. Okay, we're going to read this flyer. So, again, it says under the weather, which I love this, by the way. The weather says today, A slight atmospheric disturbance of undetermined origin is reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low-pressure area to move down rather than rapidly over the northeastern states, bringing a forecast of rain accompanied by winds of light gale force. Maximum temperature 66, minimum 48. Okay, I like it. So this is Monday, November 14th, 1955. This came out. Okay, hold on. Let's look into this here. Clock tower struck by lightning. So this is the Hill Valley Telegraph breaking it down. Hill Valley's landmark clock tower was struck by lightning during the weekend's freak electric storm. The lightning bolt fused the clock's internal mechanism and stopped the clock's hands perhaps permanently at 10:04 p.m. Interesting. The strike occurred during the peak of an unexpected lightning storm. Experts and city officials have been surveying the damage since yesterday morning, and it was not clear if it could be repaired. It is difficult to say at this point, said Brad Carter, the clock's chief custodian. The lightning bolt fused a lot of old clockwork, and we're investigating the possibility of repair. Personally, I can tell you it doesn't look good. I'd be surprised if we ever got it working again. The peculiar failure of the building's lightning rod is under investigation. Oh, there we go. It provides sufficient electrical grounding to safely and harmlessly absorb lightning strikes. The investigators found that the rod somehow became permanently severed from the grounding circuit. Theories as to how this happened have not been forthcoming. It's the darndest thing, said electrician Murray Graham of Gus and Andrews Electrical Repair Incorporated while assessing the damage. I've seen plenty of lightning strikes in my day, and I know that if this hit wasn't grounded at all, you should have had damage to a lot more than just the clockwork. Where the heck did all that extra power from the bolt go? We know. Graham isn't the only expert mystified by the circumstances. Local scientist Dr. Emmett Brown had been conducting a delicate experiment during the strike and narrowly escaped injury as his invention met an untimely end. I was performing a trial of some new specialized weather sensing equipment of my own design, and the lightning struck at the precise moment to, destroy it, said Dr. Brown as he collected the scorched remains of some cables from the area last night. I did manage to gather some, shall I say, extremely promising data regarding my work, but sadly it'll be a long time before I'm able to undertake that particular experiment again. The clock's future may be uncertain, but its past is well documented. It ceremoniously started during a town festival at 8 p.m. September 5th, 1885, and installed in the courthouse when the building was completed. The mayor dedicated the clock to the people of Hill County with a proclamation, may it stand for all time. Now, is this, I should know this, but is this an accurate, to the first movie, or is this put out afterward? For over 70 years, the Hill Valley Courthouse clock has served as a constant timekeeper and a landmark for Hill Valley residents and visitors. The clock now only displays 10:04, the time Saturday night when it was rendered inoperable by a bolt of lightning during a freak electrical storm. Photo by Gail Zemeckis. How cute is that? Please make donations to the Hill Valley Preservation Society. I'm trying to see if there's any other. I mean, that's it seems like to be that's the actual flyer. So we should be good on that. Yeah, Gail Zemeckis. Yeah, they all seem to be pretty universal. Okay, that's fine. So let's see. This is actually about the flyer. Sorry, guys, y'all are learning with me. A couple versions of the actual canon flyer prop, as used in the film, has been in general circulation for a long time. You can grab them and other free here. So let's go look what that says. 1985 replicas. Save the clock tower replica. So there's two of them. They look pretty much identical, just different pictures of the clock. But the story looks the same. Okay, now the only reason I was bringing this up is because there is a bit of dialogue, from Doc that makes me think perhaps, this could be something. But perhaps we didn't need to know the exact seconds for a particular reason. I'm sure that a lot of you out there know where I'm going. Doc Brown. So let's listen to this 1955 lightning, 1955 flyer scene. Maybe this is going to come up. No. What would you say? Like the Doc Brown scene with Marty in 1955. I don't know what they call that actual scene there. That's that. Where do they break? What I'm looking for is the scene where they break down the flyer. Because there's a scene where he tells him he's stuck here. Doc Brown maybe stuck here scene with Marty. Stuck here in 1955. Maybe this is the one here. I think this is it right here. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, so right there. Let's back it up. Okay, so he said a bolt of lightning is going to strike the clock tower at precisely 10:04 p.m. next Saturday night. Now, what does precisely mean? Let's look up the definition. I mean, we know what it means, but what does it actually mean? In exact terms or without vagueness, exactly, used to emphasize the complete accuracy or truth of a statement. Okay, so precisely in the terms of a Doc Brown, right? That has to mean, in my humble opinion, that has to mean, did y'all hear that? Okay, you didn't hear it, but he says precisely 10:04, okay? Those are the words that he used. Precisely 10:04 p.m. next Saturday night. So to me, if Doc's saying precisely, when I was watching the movie, before I read the flyer, when I was watching the movie, I always took that to mean, oh, it's 10:04 and 0 seconds, which is a possibility. Precisely 10:04 to me would be 10:04 and 0 seconds. So therefore, they did not need to know the seconds. Now, when I read that flyer that's online, obviously the real one, you can't really zoom in on that and read what's on there. So let's assume that this is the accurate version, which I think that it is. It does not say precisely in there. That was a word by Doc used to describe the time, but maybe not the accurate time. So I see where these seconds arguments go. If we take the movie at its word and we listen to Doc, it's precisely 10:04, which means 10:04 and 0 seconds. Now, to your next point, I don't know if I'll have time to do time travel stuff today. We might have to push that for another episode. We'll see. I didn't expect for me to spend 20 minutes on the first question. The other thing is about why did they have like this big wind up for the DeLorean? Why didn't they just put it on stilts, let it run up to 88, and then drop it? That way you don't miss it at all, right? Which I get the thinking behind that. I do. However, I am no physicist. I am no scientist. I know nothing. I've been doing a podcast about a movie that came out 40 years ago almost for 7 years, and it came out, all three of them, before I was even born. So I am not the most reliant of person. See, you can't even speak right. The hell is wrong with me today, man? I'm all over the place. I feel like that review for Indiana Jones. I've been making some weird mistakes lately. Like I interviewed Martin Kove the other day, who plays John Kreese in Cobra Kai and the Karate Kid movies. For some reason, in the interview, I called the character Victor Kreese instead of John Kreese. Why did I do that? I don't know. I've been making mistakes lately. The Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny review, I felt like I was all over the place. But I did just see the movie, so give me some break. Going back to this question. If you're running the wheels and you're running the engine, and say you do zoom it up all the way to 88 miles per hour, and let's say nothing goes wrong there, when you take the stilts off and the DeLorean hits the asphalt, would there not be then some immediate friction and drag caused by the rubber hitting the road, quite literally, that would cause the DeLorean to then have to, it would not stay at 88, it would slow down, right? Am I right? It would slow down, and then you'd have to still get back up to 88, although it might not take you as long. It's still, then you're factoring in when it hits the ground, how long does it take to rev back up to 88 when accounting for the friction of the road and the drag then that was caused by that and the slowing down of the engine. I think that it's a cleaner scientific experiment to know, hey, if this car's pedal is put to the metal and we go from this point to this point, we know it will hit 88 in plenty of time to then hit the lightning bolt capturer, the weather experiment from Doc Brown, the weather wire, and accelerate up to 88 miles per hour right at the time that it needs to at 10:04 precisely. And we'd be all good there. So I don't think that putting it on stilts would have been a great idea. I think you would have had to factor something in that you normally, I mean, I guess you could do it, but just to me it seems counterproductive because then you got to get it up on stilts in the middle of a road. I feel like that just adds another layer of difficulty. And then what happens if you're sitting up there on one of the stilts and one of them breaks? Then you got half a DeLorean hanging up. Then you got to go and do that at the same time the Doc's wire breaks. There's too much going on, man. We got to keep this smooth and to the groove and ready to go. We can't be taking all this time to put this car on stilts. It's just not going to happen. I do want to see, you know what I would like actually? To have my buddy Christian come on here for the time travel discussion. I didn't think that we'd get as much time out of these first two questions as we did. Now, to Back to the Future 3, crazy story about the set being burned down. Send me some literature about that. Send me an article. I'd like to read that in detail and find out exactly what happened. I know that everybody whom I've spoken to recently, and you heard my podcast with Eric Tate, something about Back to the Future 3 it's just my favorite. And I know it's not the best. This kind of reminds me of my Indiana Jones podcast, and what I went through on that is I know Raiders is the best. Like, I know it's the best. It's got the boulder scene. I mean, it's the introduction to the character. I know it's the best. However, I absolutely love The Last Crusade. So that's my favorite. There's a distinction there between best and favorite. I know, trust me, I am not stupid. I know Back to the Future 1 is the best of the trilogy. There's no debate about it. There's literally no debate about it. However, Back to the Future Part 3 is my favorite. And I used to like really float in between the three of them. And I say, oh no, this one sometimes, this one sometimes. Back to the Future 3 is solidly my favorite. And I don't think that's going to change. But it could. But anyway, guys, I don't know. I think, you know what? I'm going to put a button on it here for this week. I promise you. Next week, we'll do time travel. And then the weeks following that, we will get right back up into our talks regarding the Paradox script reading. It's almost finished recording again. It's just taking me a little bit more time. It's like reading a book for the second time. It's like some of the excitement's out of it because I know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, those recordings are coming out, and we'll probably cap this season off sometime in October when I go see Back to the Future, the musical. And I can crack this book open. So, until next time, I'm your friend in time, Brad Gilmore. This has been Back to the Future, the podcast. The only podcast looking back in time for the greatest film trilogy of all time. Season 10 marches on, and I will see you in the future.